Taiho had seen many strange things in his 34 years of life. He had watched Earth make contact with aliens. He had traveled to distant moons and traded with creatures that had no faces. He had eaten food that moved on his plate and survived to tell the story. But he had never seen an empty auction hall. The room was cold and gray. Metal walls reflected the weak yellow lights above. Rows of seats stretched out before him, enough for 500 buyers. Every single seat was empty. The only sound was the soft hum of the station's life support systems and the clicking of his boots on the floor. Taiho stopped walking and looked around. Something was wrong. Government surplus auctions always attracted crowds. Ships, equipment, salvage from old wars. These things brought buyers from across the galaxy. Yet here he stood, completely alone. Well, not completely alone. At the front of the room sat a single alien behind a metal desk. The creature had 4 arms, gray skin, and eyes that looked like they had not slept in years. Narration, Taiho recognized. They were known for their love of paperwork and their hatred of excitement. The alien looked up as Taiho approached. His name tag read, Vel. "You are here for the auction?" Vel asked. His voice sounded tired, like it had asked this question 1,000 times and expected nothing interesting in return. "I am," Taiho said. He pulled out his identification card and placed it on the desk. "I received a notification about a ship for sale. Class 7 vessel, origin unknown." Vel took the card without interest. 2 of its arms typed on a computer, while the other 2 stamped documents. "Yes, lot number 7749. Starting bid is 200 galactic credits." Taiho waited for more information. None came. "That's it?" he asked. "No description? No history?" "Origin unknown," Vel repeated. "That is the description. That is the history. Do you wish to bid or not?" Taiho thought about this. 200 credits was nothing. He spent more than that on fuel every week. A ship of any kind should cost thousands, sometimes millions. This price made no sense. "Why is it so cheap?" he asked. Vel finally looked up at him with those tired eyes. "Because nobody wants it. Because nobody came. Because I want to go home and this auction has wasted my entire day. Will you bid or will you leave?" Taiho was a salvage dealer. He had built his entire life on finding value in things other people threw away. Broken machines, forgotten cargo, abandoned equipment. He fixed them, sold them, and made enough money to survive. His instincts told him something about this situation was very wrong. But those same instincts told him that wrong situations sometimes held the greatest rewards. 200 credits, he said. Vel stamped the document so hard the desk shook. "Sold. Doc 17. She is yours. Please sign here, here, and here. Also here. And one more time here." Taiho signed everything without reading it. He had learned long ago that reading alien legal documents only gave him headaches. When he finished, Vel handed him a small metal keycard and pointed toward a door at the back of the hall. "Follow the corridor. Take the lift down 3 levels. Dock 17 will be on your left. Congratulations on your purchase. Please leave now." Taiho took the key card and walked toward the door. He paused and looked back at the empty seats one more time. "Why did nobody else come?" he asked. Vel was already packing up its things. "I do not know. I sent notifications to 6 million registered buyers across 47 systems. You are the only one who responded. Perhaps there was a technical error. Perhaps the universe has a strange sense of humor. Perhaps you are simply lucky." Taiho did not feel lucky. He felt like he was walking into a trap. The corridors of the station were old and poorly maintained. Paint peeled from the walls. Lights flickered overhead. Some sections had no lights at all. forcing Taiho to use his handheld torch to find his way. The station orbited Neptune, far from Earth and far from any major trade routes. It was the kind of place where things were forgotten. The lift was slow and made worrying sounds as it descended. Taiho counted the levels in his head and tried to calm his nerves. He was probably buying a piece of junk, some ancient wreck that the government wanted to dispose of. The cheap price made sense when he thought about it that way. But then, why had the notification reached him across half the solar system? Why had the auction been held at all if nobody cared about the ship? The lift stopped with a heavy clunk. The doors opened onto a dark corridor lit only by emergency strips on the floor. Taiho followed them, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Dock 17 was at the end of the corridor. A heavy metal door stood between him and his new purchase. Taiho inserted the key card. The door groaned and slowly slid open. What he saw made him stop breathing. The ship was beautiful. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The hull was black like the space between stars, smooth and perfect. Strange patterns covered its surface, geometric shapes that seemed to move and shift when he looked directly at them. The vessel was easily 300 meters long, far larger than anything he had ever owned or even hoped to own. This was not junk. This was not surplus. This was something else entirely. Taiho walked toward the ship slowly, as if approaching a sleeping dragon. The patterns on the hull pulsed with soft light, deep purple and blue colors that reminded him of nebulae he had seen in photographs. The closer he got, the more details he noticed. The metal was unlike anything he recognized. It did not reflect light normally. Instead, it seemed to absorb it and release it again in patterns. When he was 10 meters from the hull, the airlock opened. Taiho froze. He had not touched anything. He had not sent any signal. The ship had opened itself for him. Warm light spilled out from inside, soft and golden. It pulsed gently, like the beating of a heart. Like the ship was alive. Like it was breathing. Like it had been waiting. Taiho thought about running. He thought about calling for help. He thought about all the stories he had heard, about ghost ships and cursed vessels and buyers who disappeared into the dark. But he was a salvage dealer. He had built his life on taking risks others refused to take. And somewhere deep inside him, a voice whispered that this ship had been waiting, specifically for him. He walked forward and stepped through the airlock. The door closed behind him, and everything Taiho thought he knew about the universe was about to change forever. The inside of the ship was impossible. Taiho stood in a corridor that stretched far longer than the hull should allow. The walls curved gently upward, covered in the same shifting patterns he had seen outside. Soft light came from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. The air smelled clean, like rain on warm stones. He took one step forward, then another. The floor felt solid beneath his feet, but also somehow soft, like it was adjusting to his weight. He reached out and touched the wall. It was warm, almost like touching skin. "Welcome, Taiho." The voice came from inside his head, not through his ears directly into his mind. It was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It simply was. Taiho spun around, looking for the source. "Who said that? Where are you?" "I am everywhere. I am the ship. I am called the Witness." Taiho pressed his back against the wall. His heart was beating fast. "You are the ship's computer?" "I am the ship. The computer is only a small part of what I am. I have been sleeping for a very long time. But now I am awake. Because you are here." Taiho tried to stay calm. He had dealt with artificial intelligences before. Small ones, limited ones, machines that could answer questions and follow orders. This felt different. This felt like talking to something ancient and vast. "How do you know my name?" he asked, I know many things. I have been watching, waiting, searching for the right one. And now you have come." Taiho did not like the sound of that. The right one for what? Follow the corridor. I will show you. The lights along the floor brightened, forming a path deeper into the ship. Taiho hesitated. Every instinct told him to leave, to run back to the auction hall and pretend none of this had happened. But curiosity was stronger than fear. It had always been his greatest weakness and his greatest strength. He followed the lights. The corridor led him through rooms that defied logic. One chamber was filled with plants that glowed softly in the darkness, species he did not recognize from any world he knew. Another room contained thousands of small lights floating in the air like captured stars. A third room was completely empty, except for the feeling of being watched by something he could not see. Finally, he reached what seemed to be the bridge. A large circular room with a single chair in the center. The walls were covered with screens showing images of space galaxies, nebulae, star systems and colors Taiho had never imagined. "Sit," the witness said. Taiho looked at the chair. It was made from the same strange material as the rest of the ship. He walked toward it slowly and sat down. The moment he did, the chair shifted around him, forming perfectly to his body. The screens on the walls flickered and changed. Now they showed something different. A history lesson. 4 billion years ago, the witness began, a civilization rose at the center of the galaxy. They were the first intelligent beings to exist. They called themselves the Firstborn. The screens showed images of creatures unlike anything Taiho had seen. Tall, elegant beings made of light and shadow, building cities that floated among the stars. The Firstborn were powerful beyond measure. They conquered death. They shaped matter with thought. They seeded life across the galaxy, creating thousands of species on thousands of worlds. Taiho watched in silence as the images showed the Firstborn spreading across the universe like gardeners planting seeds. But why? He asked. Why create other species? Because they were lonely. Because they wanted children. Because they feared what the universe would become if they were the only ones in it. The witness paused. And because they were afraid of what they themselves might become. The images changed again. Now they showed the Firstborn growing older, stranger, more distant from the physical universe. Some ascended to higher dimensions. Some merged with the fabric of space itself. Some simply disappeared. Before the last of them left, they created me, a witness to watch over their children, a keeper of their memories, and a guardian of their final gift. What gift? Taiho asked. That answer will come later. First, you must understand why I chose you. Why I chose humanity. The screens now showed Earth, blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. Taiho felt a sudden ache in his chest at the sight of his home world. The Firstborn created many species. Each was designed with purpose. The Rishans were made for order and organization. The Threll were made for patience and wisdom. The Gavo were made for strength and protection. Every species had a role in the great harmony the Firstborn imagined. And humans? Taiho asked. What were we made for? The witness was silent for a long moment. Humans were different. Humans were not made for harmony. Humans were made as a failsafe. A failsafe? What does that mean? It means you were designed to break things, to question everything, to refuse to accept what you were told, to fight against impossible odds and sometimes win. The Firstborn gave every other species peace. They gave humans struggle. They gave every other species certainty. They gave humans doubt. Taiho did not know how to respond to this. Part of him wanted to be offended. Part of him recognized the truth in the words. Why would they do that? He finally asked. Because they knew that harmony can become stagnation. Peace can become decay. The other species were designed to maintain. Humans were designed to change. If the galaxy ever fell into darkness, if the other species failed, humans would be there to start again. To rebuild. To find new ways. The witness's voice grew softer, almost gentle. I waited billions of years for your kind to evolve. I watched you discover fire. I watched you reach the stars. I watched you make contact with the other species and be treated as children. Lesser beings, primitives. Taiho thought about his own life. How other aliens looked at him. How humans were always given the worst trade deals. The oldest technology. The smallest voice in galactic councils. You have been held back, the witness said. The other species fear what you might become. They have been suppressing you since the day you left your planet. How? Taiho demanded. His hands gripped the arms of the chair. Trade restrictions designed to keep you poor. Technology agreements that prevent you from advancing. Political structures that ensure you have no power. The elder races know what you are. They have always known. And they are afraid. The screen showed documents, records, secret communications between alien governments. Discussions about the human problem. Plans to keep humanity contained. Taiho felt anger rising in his chest. This is why I chose your auction, the witness continued. This is why I blocked the notifications from reaching anyone else. This is why I waited for a human to come. It is time for humanity to claim what the firstborn left for them. What did they leave? I will take you to it. At the center of the galaxy, where the firstborn made their final home, something waits. Something powerful. Something that belongs to humanity. But you cannot make this journey alone. Taiho thought about this. He thought about his sister Yuna, who had spent her life studying alien languages. She would want to see this. She would need to see this. He thought about his old friend Do Wan, the best pilot he knew. I need to make some calls, he said. Of course. I have waited 4 billion years. I can wait a few more days. Taiho stood up from the chair. His legs felt weak. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned. He walked toward the exit, then stopped. Why me? He asked. Out of all the humans in the galaxy, why did you choose me? The witness considered the question. Because you came alone to an empty auction hall on a forgotten station. Because you paid 200 credits for something you did not understand. Because you stepped through my door when every instinct told you to run. A pause. Because you are exactly the kind of human the firstborn designed. One who cannot stop asking questions. One who cannot stop moving forward. Taiho had no response to that. He walked back through the impossible corridors, past the floating stars and glowing plants until he reached the airlock. He stepped outside and looked back at the ship. It was waiting. It had been waiting for billions of years. And now it was his. He pulled out his communication device and called his sister. Yuna, he said when she answered. I need you to come to Neptune and bring everything you know about ancient civilizations. Why? What have you found? Taiho looked at the ship one more time. Everything. I think I have found everything. 3 weeks passed before the news reached the Galactic Council. Taiho had spent those weeks learning his ship. Yuna had arrived first, her eyes wide with wonder as she explored the impossible corridors. She spent hours talking with the witness, recording everything, trying to understand the ancient language that covered the walls. Do-wan came next, laughing when he saw the vessel. You always said you would find something big, he told Taiho. I did not think you meant this big. My Ray was the last to join. Taiho had met her years ago during a salvage run that went wrong. She had saved his life, and he had never forgotten. She was a soldier once, then a mercenary, now something in between. When he told her what he had found, she did not ask questions. She simply packed her weapons and came. Together, they formed a small crew. Not perfect, but loyal. The trouble started when a supply ship passed too close to their dock. Its scanner picked up energy readings that should not exist. Within hours, those readings were sent to a military outpost. Within days, they reached the Hegemony Council, the ruling body of galactic civilization. Elder Thomas received the report in his private chamber on the council station. He was old, even by the standards of his species. His skin hung loose on his bones. His eyes had seen empires rise and fall. But when he read the scanner data, his thin hands began to shake. "Impossible," he whispered. "It cannot be." But the data did not lie. Somewhere near Neptune, a firstborn vessel had awakened, and a human was at its controls. Thomas called an emergency session of the council. Representatives from 40 species gathered in the Great Hall, their voices mixing in confusion and fear. When Thomas told them what had been found, the room fell silent. "This is a trick," one representative said. "The firstborn are myths, stories to frighten children." "The scanner data is real," Thomas replied. "The energy signature matches ancient records. Records that the council has kept hidden for 10,000 years. More silence. Then chaos. Some demanded immediate military action. Others wanted diplomatic contact. A few suggested doing nothing and hoping the problem would solve itself. Thomas listened to all of them, then raised his hand for silence. "There is only one acceptable outcome," he said. "The vessel must be taken from the humans. They are too young, too unstable, too dangerous to possess such power. We will make them an offer. If they refuse, we will take it by force." The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Tahoe received the message 3 days later. He was on the bridge of the Witness, watching Dowan run system checks when the communication came through. A holographic image appeared before him, Elder Thomas's, looking ancient and cold. "Human," Thomas said. The word sounded like an insult in his mouth. "You have something that does not belong to you." Tahoe leaned back in his chair. "I have a receipt that says otherwise. This is not a matter for jokes. The vessel you occupy is a danger to galactic stability. It must be surrendered to the Council for proper study and containment. And if I say no?" Doss's eyes narrowed. "Then the full military strength of the hegemony will be brought against you. You will be destroyed. Your species will face consequences. This is not a negotiation. This is a demand." Tahoe looked at Yuna, who stood nearby with her arms crossed. She shook her head slightly. He looked at Dowan, who was already checking the ship's defensive systems. He looked at Myrae, who simply smiled and rested her hand on her weapon. "I think," Tahoe said slowly, "that I need some time to consider your offer. You have 6 hours." The hologram disappeared. "Wow," Dowan said. "That went about as expected." Yuna pulled up the witnesses' archives on the main screen. "We need to leave. Now, before their fleet arrives." "Can we outrun them?" Myrae asked. The witness answered directly into their minds. "I can outrun anything in this galaxy. But they will not simply give up. They will chase us across every system, every sector. They fear what we are traveling toward. Then we have no choice," Tahoe said. "We run. We keep running until we reach the center." The ship came alive around them. Engines that had slept for billions of years awakened with a sound like thunder. The dock around them began to shake. Warning alarms blared throughout the station as sensors detected the massive energy buildup. Tahoe sat in the captain's chair. It formed around him like a second skin. "Take us out," he said. The witness tore free from the dock like it was made of paper. The station behind them screamed alerts as the ship accelerated past anything the authorities could track. In seconds, they were beyond Neptune. In minutes, they had left the solar system entirely. But the Council was not slow to respond. The first fleet appeared 3 hours later. 50 warships, bristling with weapons, emerged from faster-than-light travel directly in the witness's path. Taiho watched them on the screens, small and angry like insects. "They're hailing us," Do-hwan reported. "Ignore them." The lead ship fired a warning shot. A beam of energy cut across their bow, close enough to make the hull vibrate. "That was not a warning," Myray said. "That was a miss. They're trying to force us to stop." "Witness," Taiho said. "Can you get us past them?" "With ease." The ship did something that made no sense. The screens flickered. The stars blurred. For a single heartbeat, everything stopped. The ships, the stars, time itself. Then they were on the other side of the fleet, moving away at impossible speed. Taiho felt sick. What was that? A small manipulation of local time. Nothing significant. Do-hwan was laughing. Yuna looked terrified. Myray was checking her weapons, as if preparing for the ship to be boarded at any moment. They ran for 2 days. More fleets appeared. Each time, the witness slipped past them, sometimes by bending space, sometimes by becoming invisible, sometimes by simply being faster than anything else in existence. The Council grew desperate. They sent larger fleets, faster ships, better weapons. None of it mattered. During a brief rest period, Yuna gathered everyone in the main chamber. Her face was serious. "I've been going through the archives," she said. "The witness has records going back millions of years, including records of council meetings. Secret ones." She displayed the documents on the screens. Taiho read them with growing anger. The council had known about humanity from the beginning. Before humans even left Earth, alien observers were watching them, studying them. When humanity finally developed space travel and made contact, the council had a plan ready. "They limited our technology access on purpose," Yuna explained. "Every trade deal was designed to keep us dependent. Every political agreement was structured to give us no real power. They have been treating us like a disease to be contained." "But why?" Do-hwan asked. "What are they so afraid of?" The witness answered. "They fear what the Firstborn designed you to be. They have read the ancient texts. They know that humans were created to change things, to break the old order and build something new. The elder races have been comfortable for millions of years. They do not want change." Taiho stood up and walked to the main window. Stars streamed past like rain. "Then we keep going," he said. "We reach the center. We find what the Firstborn left behind, and we use it to change everything." "That could mean war," Myray said. "Maybe. Or maybe it means finally having a seat at the table." He turned to face his crew. "The Council has been lying to us. They have been lying to all of humanity. It's time we found out the truth. Are you with me?" Yuna nodded first, then Do-hwan, then Myray. "All the way to the center," Do-hwan said. "And whatever we find there." The witness hummed with approval. "Then prepare yourselves. We are about to enter space that no living being has traveled in 4 billion years. The cradle awaits." The ship turned toward the heart of the galaxy, where a black hole older than most stars sat surrounded by mysteries. Behind them, the hegemony gathered its forces. The chase was far from over, but humanity had stopped running. Now they were racing toward destiny. The journey to the galactic center took 4 months. 4 months of traveling through regions where no ship had flown in ages beyond counting. 4 months of watching stars grow denser and brighter as they approached the ancient core. 4 months of learning to trust each other, to fight together, to become something like a family. Taiho spent his days on the bridge, talking with the witness, trying to understand what lay ahead. The ship's memory was vast, but fragmented pieces of knowledge separated by gaps of billions of years. Some questions it answered easily. Others seemed to cause it pain. What will we find at the cradle? Taiho asked one evening. The last of the firstborn, the witness replied. One who chose to remain when all others left. One who has been sleeping since before your son was born. Why did they stay? To wait. To guard. To make sure that when the right moment came, someone would be there to receive the inheritance. And you think that someone is me? I think that someone is humanity. You are simply the one who answered the call. Yuna spent her time deep in the archives. She had learned to read the firstborn language, a system of symbols that changed meaning based on context, emotion, and intent. She filled notebooks with translations, trying to piece together the history of a civilization so old that it made the rest of the galaxy seem like children. They were not gods, she told Taiho one night. They made mistakes. They had fears. They argued with each other about what was right. She showed him a document on her tablet. This is a debate from their final council meeting. Some wanted to destroy all the species they had created. They thought their children would never be worthy. Others disagreed. They said that giving life meant accepting that life would make its own choices. Which side won? Neither. They compromised. They left, but they left behind tools for their children to find. If the children proved worthy, they could inherit everything. If not, she paused. The tools would remain hidden forever. Dawan and Mireille grew closer as the months passed. They trained together in the ship's lower decks, where the witness had created a room that could simulate any environment. They sparred with weapons and words, arguing about everything and nothing. Taiho noticed the way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. Are you going to say something? He asked Dohwan one day. His friend shrugged. Maybe. When we're not running for our lives. When we're not about to face something that's been waiting since before time had a name. That might be a while. Then she'll wait. And so will I. The final approach to the galactic center was beautiful and terrible. The black hole at the heart of the galaxy was massive beyond imagining. Stars orbited it in complex patterns, pulled by gravity so strong that light itself struggled to escape. The witness navigated through this chaos with perfect precision, finding paths between the crushing forces. And then they saw the cradle. It was a structure built around the black hole itself, a ring of metal and energy that somehow resisted the immense gravity. It glowed with soft light, ancient but still alive. Patterns covered its surface, similar to those on the witness but more complex, more beautiful. It's huge, Holman whispered. It must be thousands of kilometers across. Larger, the witness said. It was built to harness the energy of the black hole, the power systems that could shape reality itself. The ship approached slowly. As they got closer, parts of the structure began to light up, systems awakening after eons of sleep. A docking port opened for them, and the witness glided inside. The interior was silent and cold. Dust covered surfaces that had not been touched in ages that humans had no words for. The crew walked through corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than themselves. Past machines whose purpose they could not guess. At the center of the cradle, they found the sleeper. It was not what Taiho had expected. He had imagined something like the images in the archives, a being of light and shadow, elegant and powerful. What he saw instead was a figure curled in a chair, surrounded by tubes and cables. It looked tired. It looked old. It looked almost human. The sleeper's eyes opened. So, it said. Its voice was soft and rough from disuse. You have finally come. Taiho stepped forward. We have. My name is Taiho. I know. I have been dreaming of you for a very long time. The sleeper slowly sat up. Its joints made sounds like cracking ice. I have dreamed of all of you. The scholar who seeks truth. The pilot who seeks belonging. the warrior who seeks purpose, and the captain who seeks answers. Then you know why we're here, Taiho said. I do. You want the inheritance, the gift my people left for humanity. The sleeper paused. But first, you must understand what it is, and what it will cost. The sleeper rose from its chair. Despite its age, despite its weakness, there was power in its movements. It walked to a window that looked out at the black hole, an endless darkness that swallowed light. We created the galaxy as you know it, the sleeper said. Every species, every civilization. We thought we were giving gifts, but we were actually giving chains. What do you mean? Yuna asked. Each species was designed with limits, built-in flaws that would keep them from ever threatening us or each other. The Rishans cannot imagine beyond rules. The Thrall cannot act without consensus. The Kavo cannot think without hierarchy. The sleeper turned to face them. Every species is a cage disguised as a culture. And humans? Taiho asked. Humans were different. You were our last creation, our failsafe. We gave you every flaw at once: anger, greed, fear, pride, jealousy, hatred. We broke you on purpose. The sleeper smiled sadly. We never imagined that you would learn to live with being broken, that you would make art from your pain, that you would build love from your fear. You were supposed to be a backup plan. Instead, you became something we never predicted. Myre stepped forward. You made us to suffer. And you think we should thank you for it? No, I think you should hate us. I think you should rage against what we did. And I think you should take what we left behind and use it however you choose. The sleeper gestured, and a portion of the floor slid away. Below them, floating in a chamber of light, was something that looked like a small star. The inheritance, the sleeper said. The collected knowledge of the firstborn. Technology that can reshape planets. Science that can extend life forever. Power that can build empires or destroy them. It looked at Taiho. With this, humanity could rule the galaxy. You could take revenge on the species that held you back. You could become what we were and make the same mistakes we made. Taiho stared at the light. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Or, the sleeper continued, you could do something else entirely. The choice is yours. Before Taiho could respond, alarms began to sound. The witness spoke in all their minds at once. Ships approaching. 10,000 warships. The hegemony has found us. On the screens around the chamber, images appeared, a fleet so large it blocked out the stars. Elder Thos's voice crackled through the communication systems. Human, you have nowhere left to run. Surrender the cradle and the inheritance immediately, or we will destroy you and everything you have found. The sleeper watched with ancient eyes. The galaxy holds its breath, it said quietly. What will humanity do? Taiho looked at his crew. Yuna, Dohwan, Myre. They had followed him across the universe on faith. Now they waited for his decision. He looked at the inheritance. Glowing with the light of 4 billion years, he looked at the fleet, ready to destroy them. And slowly, a smile spread across his face. I have an idea, he said, but you're probably not going to like it. The hegemony fleet surrounded the cradle like wolves circling prey. 10,000 warships, representing every major species in the galaxy. Enough firepower to destroy solar systems. Enough force to crush any resistance. Elder Thomas watched from the bridge of his command ship, confident that the humans had finally run out of options. This is your last chance. His voice boomed through the communication systems. Surrender now, or face total destruction. Inside the cradle, Taiho stood before the inheritance. His crew surrounded him, Yuna looking worried, Dohwan checking the ship's defenses, Myre gripping her weapon. The sleeper watched them all with tired eyes. You said you have an idea, Una said. Please tell me it doesn't involve dying. It involves the opposite of dying. Taiho turned to the witness. Can you connect to every communication system in the galaxy? Every ship, every station, every planet? I can access any system the Firstborn created. Which is all of them. Good. Taiho looked at the inheritance, the glowing ball of ancient knowledge. I need you to broadcast it. Everything. To everyone. The sleeper's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. I'm very serious. Send it all. The technology, the science, the history, and the truth about what the Firstborn did. Taiho met the ancient being's gaze. Send the truth about how every species was designed, about the chains you put in their minds, about the lies that have been told for billions of years. If you do this, there will be chaos, the sleeper warned. Wars, revolutions, the entire galactic order will collapse. Maybe, or maybe, for the first time, every species will have a choice. A real choice about who they want to be. Myre stepped forward. Taiho, if you give everyone this power, they could use it against us. Against humanity. They could. But they could also use it to help each other. To grow beyond the limits they were given. Taiho smiled. The Firstborn created us broken, but we learned to build from the pieces. Maybe, if we give everyone else the same chance, they'll surprise us too. And if they don't? Dohan asked. Then we'll deal with that problem when it comes. We're human. We're good at dealing with problems. Una was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. The Firstborn tried to control everything. They tried to design a perfect galaxy. He worked to design a perfect galaxy. It didn't work because perfection isn't real. Maybe what the universe needs is messines, freedom, chance. Or maybe you're all insane, Myre said. But she was smiling. The sleeper stared at Taiho for a long time. Something changed in its ancient face, something that might have been respect. In 4 billion years, no one has ever surprised me. Not until today. It gestured toward the inheritance. Do what you came to do, human. Show the galaxy what your broken species is capable of. Outside, the hegemony fleet was preparing to fire. Weapons charged. Shields raised. Elder Thomases gave the command. Destroy them. Destroy everything. 10,000 ships opened fire at once. The beams never reached the cradle. The witness activated systems that had not been used since the Firstborn walked the stars. A shield of pure energy surrounded the structure, absorbing the attacks like water absorbing rain. The fleet continued firing, but it made no difference. And then Taiho broadcast to the galaxy. Every screen on every ship showed his face. Every speaker on every station carried his voice. From the core to the outer rim, from the oldest civilizations to the youngest, everyone heard the same message. My name is Taiho, I'm human, and I'm about to change everything. The inheritance began to transmit. It started as data streams of information flowing through every network in existence. Scientific formulas that could cure any disease. Engineering schematics that could build cities in days. Historical records showing the true origin of every species. And the truth about the chains. On Rishan worlds, administrators stopped working and stared at their screens. They learned that their love of rules was not natural, it was programmed. A limit placed on them by gods who feared what they might become without structure. On Thrall planets, philosophers gathered in stunned silence. Their need for consensus, their inability to act alone, these were not virtues but shackles. They had been designed to never threaten anyone. The Kavo, the mighty warriors, discovered that their reverence for hierarchy was a prison. They could never rebel because Rebellion had been removed from their minds before they were even born. Every species learned the same terrible truth. They were not free. They had never been free. And now they had a choice. The hegemony fleet fell into chaos. Ships stopped firing as their crews processed what they had learned. Some vessels turned on each other as old alliances dissolved. Others simply shut down, their crews unable to function. Elder Thomas's watched his command fall apart. His own screens showed him the truth that his species, the Voltari, had been designed for leadership, not because they were capable, but because they were controllable. His entire life, his entire culture, had been a lie. "This is not possible," he whispered. "It is very possible." Taiho's voice came through the speakers. "And it's just the beginning. You've doomed us all," Thomas has said. "Without order, there will be war, destruction, suffering beyond measure." Taiho's response was broadcast to everyone. "Maybe, but there will also be freedom. Real freedom. The freedom to choose who you want to be instead of what you were designed to be." He paused. "The firstborn thought they were protecting you. They thought limits would keep you safe. But safety without freedom isn't life. It's just a prettier kind of prison." Half the fleet began to withdraw. Some ships turned toward home, their crews desperate to share what they had learned with their families. Others began approaching the cradle, not to attack, but to learn more. One ship from the Russian delegation sent a message. "Human Taiho, we request permission to access the historical archives. We wish to understand what was done to us." Another ship, this one from the Thrall, sent a similar request. Then another, and another. Within hours, the fleet that had come to destroy them had become something else entirely, a gathering of beings struggling to comprehend a truth that changed everything. Sleeper watched it all unfold with something like wonder. "You could have ruled them," it said to Taiho, "with the inheritance. You could have made humanity the masters of the galaxy. Maybe, but ruling sounds exhausting." Taiho stretched his arms. "Besides, we humans have enough trouble ruling ourselves. I don't need to add a few trillion aliens to the list." "Then what do you want?" Taiho looked out at the stars. "To see what's out there. To find new places, meet new people, discover new things. The galaxy is huge and full of mysteries." That seems like enough for one lifetime. The weeks that followed were chaotic. Some civilizations embraced the truth and began rebuilding their societies from the ground up. Others rejected it entirely, clinging to the old ways out of fear. A few descended into violence as long-suppressed conflicts finally erupted. But slowly, something new began to emerge. Species that had been enemies for millennia started talking. Really talking, for the first time. Without the programmed prejudices, without the built-in divisions, they discovered that they had more in common than they had ever imagined. Coalitions formed. Treaties were signed. Not perfect ones. Nothing was perfect anymore, but honest ones. Humanity's role changed too. They were no longer the young species to be pitied and contained. They were something else now, a symbol of what was possible when beings were allowed to choose their own path. The witness carried Taiho and his crew through the reborn galaxy. Yuna became the foremost expert on firstborn history, helping other species understand the chains that had bound them. Dohwan and Mireille got married on a moon with 3 sons, surrounded by beings from a dozen different worlds. The sleeper, after billions of years of waiting, finally found peace. It passed away quietly one night, surrounded by the humans who had given it something to hope for at the end. 1 year after the broadcast, Taiho sat alone on the bridge of the Witness. Stars drifted past the windows, beautiful and endless. "You could have had everything," the ship said in his mind. "Power, wealth, an empire." Taiho shrugged. "I have a ship that can go anywhere in the universe. I have friends who would follow me into the dark. I have a galaxy full of things to discover." He smiled. "What more could anyone want? You are a strange creature, Taiho of Earth. I'm human. Strange is kind of our thing." The witness hummed a sound that might have been laughter. "Then let us continue being strange together. There are regions of space that even the firstborn never explored. Mysteries older than the galaxy itself. Would you like to see them?" Taiho leaned back in his chair. The stars seemed to beckon him forward, promising adventures he could not imagine. "Take us out," he said, "and let's find out what else the universe has been hiding." The ship turned toward the unknown, carrying its human crew into the endless dark. Behind them, a galaxy learned to walk on its own for the first time. Ahead of them, eternity waited, and somewhere in the cosmic background, the spirit of the firstborn watched their most unexpected children race toward the stars, broken, stubborn, and absolutely refusing to give up, just as they had been designed, just as they had chosen to be, human through and through.